shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. Win it, take a swim, only option is to win. In the murky water, not a thought of giving in. Welcome to the shrimp tank. Want to put it all together, this is big things. Doing big things, chasing big dreams. Yeah, it's all real, this life's all that it seems. All the chicks scream, all the dudes yell. This is just what I do and I do it well. With the flow fresher than the new shoe smell. Going through hell, well homie keep going. You know the saying, you gon' reap what you sow in. So I don't chase girls, I just chase dreams. Play the same game, but we ain't in the same league. Running a campaign, Roadie 2016. Like a phone to die, putting me in charge. I'm a general, from the front I'ma lead the charge. Like a federal, fell on my lap never. Going hard as ever.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Oz Digital Studio, where we filmed the Boca Raton Shrimp Tank in collaboration with the FAU Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. This is the podcast where we get to interview the best and brightest entrepreneurs down here in South Florida, finding the do's and don'ts of running a business, of course, and you can catch it all on Facebook Live every Thursday, 4 p.m. at Shrimp Tank Boca. Of course, on Instagram, we put clips up every single week and awesome content about all of our entrepreneurs. And, of course, on all the podcast apps like Spotify, iHeartRadio, and anywhere else that you see a podcast, we are at. Right, Roland?
Absolutely. We're everywhere.
So how's everything going?
Fantastic.
Mr. Shrimp Doctor. I don't even know the name anymore. What's the name? What is your at Shrimp?
The Shrimp Doctor with a bunch of underlines in there. Just go on Instagram and put my name in, my real name.
So are we going to have you start doing some reels now? Reels are becoming very popular on Instagram.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to do a lot of Virginia reels.
Okay. Travis did his last one.
Did he?
With the guest last week, it got over 3,000 views.
Well, speaking of reels, I've got a new contest we're going to come up with here this fall, and that is for our marketing students at FAU to reimagine the theme song of the Shrimp Tank Boca and come up with a new theme song. We're going to have a contest with a grand prize of $5 to the winner. I might, and I'll match it.
They could buy, they'll have change after the 4 for $4 at Wendy's.
Yeah, they can buy pizza
or
whatever, yeah. So we'll do that. And we also, our boot camp, our summer boot camp's coming to an end, and that's fantastic. We're really getting a lot of good ideas. I can't talk too much about them because a lot of people want to be, a little under the radar there a bit. There can be pitching next Wednesday to us, and then we're going to kind of try to give them some advice, send them on their way. And we'll be starting out the boot camp in the fall. And again, we're hoping to offer our boot camp, the regular boot camp. We're also hoping to offer it in Spanish. A couple weeks from now, July 12th, we're going to open back up FAU, and people are going to come back to work, and the offices will all be staffed. Most of them are anyway, but we'll be back, and then in the fall, we'll be having some regular classes. And the point you made earlier about people wanting to take online classes, yes, there's a lot bigger demand among the students to take online classes, and we want to have kind of a balance going forward with that. So anyway, that's what's going on pretty much. I'm sure I forgot something.
So do you think it really matters when people always say, I don't want to share my idea? Right? I hear that all the time, but I feel like 99% of people never execute the idea anyway. And It's so difficult. I was like, I'm going to hide my technology. It's a new mobile app or it's a new website. And the truth is, it's like 99.9% it never gets developed. They don't execute. Even if you tell 1,000 people, no one's really going to do it.
Well, right, and there aren't people out there poaching. There really aren't. I mean, very many that are particularly in the group, but even beyond that. And when you get it out into the business plan competition or pitch or anything like that, it's out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you got to move. That's the thing. Just move fast and make sure you got something.
Any unique industries that folks from the boot camp are going after?
There's something involving dog apparatus that is kind of interesting. I'll just say that much. Some new feature that will help pet owners and pets deal with an issue. How about that?
Well, people spend a fortune on their pets, so
I think
totally
that's good.
Makes sense.
All kinds of stuff going on.
Let's get into our guest today. We got Maureen Mascaro. She is the founder of The Common Area, and we're excited to learn all about what's going on in the real estate industry, the building industry, what's going on here in South Florida. So, Maureen, tell us about your company.
Sure. Thanks, guys, for having me. I really appreciate you bringing me on here. My company provides owner's rep project management services, and the term owner's rep isn't often recognized. It doesn't jump off your tongue there, but basically what we do is advocate for our clients. We help them hire an architect. We help them hire engineers. We project plan in terms of schedule and budget. And then once we're fully through design, we get it through permitting. And then we help you select the general contractor that's going to execute the work. And then all of the other vendors that need to take part in the production of the project. So audiovisual consultants and signage vendors and furniture and things of that nature.
Never ending, it sounds like. So who is your target type of client? Explain what you mean exactly, where they come in and hire you.
Sure.
Is it huge buildings, that we see off 95? Is it mid-size? Kind of give us an idea.
My core client base is really actually office tenants. So if you are an occupier of office space, you would hire me to help you navigate that entire process of relocating your office. Or if you're renewing a lease and you need to do a refresh, or you're expanding your premises and taking on additional square footage, I would help you with your office or industrial project. I have also expanded out into education facilities, medical, pharmaceutical, residential, high-end residential, and you name it. If it's a project, we'll help you build out. So we do also do condo association renovations, which is a hot topic now, to say the least. So basically, if it's a real estate project, we will manage it.
Okay, so let me break this down so our audience understands. Roland's going to start doing reels next week. He's going to become, this huge influencer, millions of followers, and he's going to start selling all our shrimp gear, right? So he's going to look at some warehouse space, and it's 100,000 square feet, like the size of a Walmart, right? And he starts selling it, and then you come in and you meet with Roland, right? Because he's the buyer of this new space that he's selling shrimp and all his gear out of. And then what do you tell to Roland? Kind of pitch Roland why he should hire you and what you're going to do for him, I guess, in more detail.
It's a great question. So Roland, what you do best is shrimp, right? You don't necessarily build office space or industrial space. What I do is build and project manage those build outs for my clients. So by allowing me to help take ownership of the project for you and advocate on your behalf, you can stay focused on what you do best, which is your business of shrimp. Or podcasting or whatever it may be, and to let me focus on negotiating on your behalf, saving you time, money, and aggravation in that process.
And these are mainly tenants that you work with who
Mostly.
are maybe getting larger, expanding into. How has that been affected? The obvious first question is about the COVID in office space and remote locations. What's been the impact, the biggest impact you've seen?
Great question. So when I first started my business, I wanted to be known as the office project manager because we focus on that as a niche, and that was really a market that was in need of that of specific attention. A lot of people want to dive into the ground up development buildings, but I thought that the tenant really deserves a more concentrated effort at their particular project. So when COVID hit, of course, I went into a little bit of a panic of what's going to happen to the office market. And people are going to be working remotely more, and so less office is going to be needed. And then so that particular niche is going to be less of a market than it was before. And what I'm finding now, a year and a half later, is that actually the South Florida market is in a particularly unique situation. So we have a lot of businesses relocating to our market, and the office market is on fire. The industrial market is on fire. Our brokers that we talk to and work with every day have never been busier in their life. They're drinking through the fire hose trying to keep up with the tenants that want to move here from New York, from you name it. So yes, COVID has negatively affected the office market, but countering that has been this huge influx of tech companies, financial services companies, all of those which are my base core client, law firms. All the relocations happening to South Florida then need all their tangential services. So we have some employees that focus on quick service restaurants, and so all those franchise rollouts that now want to bring more locations are going to need project management services for their build outs.
So other parts of the country are in big trouble. Here, everybody's moving down here.
Right.
How about companies now that want to have more space but from their employees, keeping them apart, social distancing? So that's going to help the market too, right?
Absolutely. So the question was, we've been on this trend of, and we call it workplace strategy. Are we reducing the number of square feet per person in our footprint so that we can reduce our real estate costs that were escalating tremendously? Yes. Now the trend is going back the opposite direction, where we do want to give employees a little bit more space per person than we were trending. And a lot of that is because of health safety. But also you have the ability to have flexible schedules where some people can work from home and some people can come into the office, and you can do that in shifts of, Tuesday, Wednesday, 50 people are in the office, and then the other Thursday, Friday, the other 50 people are in the office. And so you may need less real estate in that scenario, right? So there's all these factors that are coming into play that are really interesting. So we are always looking out for the research and things that are published by our friends in the industry that look at this workplace strategy question deeply and help guide our clients in what is happening in the market.
How did you get into this?
That's a great question. So I accidentally. So my background is in corporate strategy, mergers and acquisitions, and business development. And I took a chance to go work for an entrepreneur friend of mine who, was looking for someone, and I went to go work for them. It didn't work out, and I very quickly found myself in need of a job. And I had met someone at a Greater Miami Chamber networking event, and she said, "Oh, my firm is hiring. It's a real estate company. Would you be interested?" So I looked at the position, and it was really a support role for the brokers in commercial real estate. And I interviewed really well for it. I found it a really fascinating industry that was endlessly had endless possibilities for where you can go. And my father's an electrician, so I spent many summers on job sites, screwing in outlet plate covers, making sure that the screws were all aligned straight, right? He was very particular. So I was comfortable in construction, and after a while I realized I don't want to be a broker. Here I am supporting these brokers, but I don't feel an affinity to be a broker. And their project management department was always busy. So I said, well, what if I hop over to that department and see if I can learn what they do? And they said, well, you don't know anything about construction. You don't know anything about architecture. You don't know anything about engineering. What makes you think you can be successful at this? And I kind of looked at my transferable skill set, like I was taught to do in marketing and business, and said, well, I'm really good at helping people collaborate. And I'm really good at helping people communicate with one another successfully. And I'm really good at assessing all the different factors that need to come into something to make it work. And I can learn what a soffit is. I can learn, the process of construction, and then I can communicate what I'm learning in layman's term to the client. And because I had spent so much time in corporate strategy around senior executives, I knew how they like to receive information, how they digest it, and then what they need to make decisions and move forward. So I was applying all of that as I was learning about construction, and sort of formed my own way of project managing, which is a little unorthodox, but it works for me. So what that means is that because I didn't know anything, supposedly, I had to lean on my architects and GCs as my partners and say, listen, I don't really know what this issue is, right? This is an existing condition and there's a mechanical problem with the HVAC system. Help me understand it and help me explain it to my client so that I can help them understand why this is a legitimate change order, for example, or why we're having this delay. So they learned that I trust them, and I had to learn that trust is critical. And that differentiated me from other project managers who look at that relationship as needing to be adversarial. We need to fight for our client against the mean GC and that's going to change order us, and we need to fight against the architect and GC because there's finger pointing, and that's what this game is about. And I said, it doesn't need to be like that. There's a better way.
So after the tenant moves in, are you then the advocate with the landlord?
Yes.
And that continues. How big a part of business is that?
So once the build out is done, there is oftentimes additional work that comes year after year. And that's when the client always calls me and says, I need to work with my landlord and negotiate an expansion. So if they don't have their own broker, I'll help introduce them to a broker. I don't do the brokerage, but I can help advise them on tenant improvement allowance dollars. I can help them put a budget and a schedule together so they can present that to their landlords. And sometimes there are things, like with COVID, I was helping all of my clients with talking to their landlord. They were afraid to ask the question of rent relief or, just help them understand that here's how to have the conversation about anything related to their space.
Okay, you're not out there advocating to get the air conditioning fixed. You just tell them how to do it.
Yeah.
Is that sort of
Yeah.
like when something comes up.
Yes. Yeah, I can help them navigate the challenge.
Okay, cool.
everything that you were just talking about, all I heard was good communication skills. Because at the end of the day, so many people go into business, especially in your space, and when you hear the negative feedback, it's always like, no one's communicating with me. Whenever I built anything on my home, it's like people would just show up left and right. I'm like, why can't they just text me? Why can't they just email me? Why can't they just call me? And you brought that to a space, and that's what I'm sensing is why you're successful. And you also had the back, the back end to having sales and marketing experience as well. So how do you market your own business? How do you get out there?
Yeah,
right?
So marketing is huge for me. I have started doing videos with COVID. I needed to pivot somehow, and marketing was one of them. And so I started doing these kind of quirky selfie videos around a job site, sort of showing people what a soffit was or why this HVAC problem was causing a delay, and trying to come at it from an approachability aspect. A lot of people think construction is so complicated, or as women in construction, I can't be in construction. I'm a woman. Well, yes, you can. It's completely accessible, and let me show you how. So these marketing videos I was doing were really taking on. And so now I post them. I have a YouTube channel, and I have, an assistant who helps me post things on Facebook and Instagram and all of that. We also started doing e-newsletters once a month, and those were incredibly popular, and nobody else that does what I do was doing these. So those have been great, really creating that CRM database and making sure that we're staying in touch with clients. So yeah, I do LinkedIn a lot. LinkedIn is really a really good business development and relationship building tool. So I rely heavily on LinkedIn.
And so you're in a male-dominated industry. Do you think being a female helps you or hurts you, would you say, overall?
Helps me tremendously.
It does help you. And then I guess, what is your favorite? You just mentioned a lot of different platforms. What is your favorite platform right now when it comes to marketing? Is it LinkedIn, just direct messages?
I got to say it's Clubhouse.
Clubhouse, which is how you and I originally met, right?
That's right. That's exactly right.
So I got to then wonder, because Clubhouse, what I found is a lot of people all over the United States. It's hard to kind of say, hey, I want to jump in a room where it's just, Florida-type business owners, for example. So how do you get the Florida folks, I guess, through Clubhouse?
I would say that the work that I do interacts with people from all over the U.S.
Okay.
So it hasn't been necessary to isolate it to South Florida. In fact, I've been trying to scale the business and grow it geographically. So it's been important for me to connect with people in real estate or people who might need my services or tangential services across the country. But certainly when I have been following rooms that are South Florida based, like yours and others, and it's important for me to network with those groups. So there's Marlon, there's a guy named Marlon who does a 305-954 kind of check-in. Sure. And I love his I think they're Wednesdays. But I also attend every Tuesday a construction pros call that is based out of LA or California time anyway. And I hop on those and talk to people from around the country. So it has already resulted in multiple business opportunities for me that have turned into real revenue dollars for the company. So it's helped me connect with investors in the UK, with a developer in Orlando. On my residential owners rep side, I've met with other owners rep who do this in New York, who have high net worth clients in Miami who are buying properties or own properties. So I've been working on those projects. So Clubhouse has been a huge business development tool, but also helping me be a thought leader and really beta test some new ideas that I've been working on.
Sure. Roland, we getting you on Clubhouse?
Not yet.
Soon. I agree.
We'll
Clubhouse
see.
is an excellent platform because you could do it while you're driving in the office, drive into different construction zones. And, what alternative is there? It's listening to podcasts or music or audible books, right? And this is a new platform where you can market while you drive. That's when I do my Clubhouse most of the time.
Right, absolutely.
These days where I'm not like in the office where like I'm on a phone call with a client or doing other things. I'd like it on my downtime or, I'm at home and I'm kind of bored for 30 minutes. I could jump on and kill two birds with one stone. So I love that tactic.
How do you start something like this? I mean, did you have like a big client that would really, that's how you got going and then you could get the referrals from that? Is that what happened there?
It is. So what happened is I was getting increasingly frustrated at this. I was working for a very large real estate company at the time, and my style required that I am more hands-on and boutique focused. And that business model was more about quantity of projects per project manager, and my style was much less about that. And so I sort of said, I think if I have, one or two clients rather than working on 12 projects at a time, I can make enough money to pay my mortgage. I can live a good life and not be so stressed out working 80 hours a week. So I started thinking about that more and more, and I had really good role models in my life of other women entrepreneurs. I was really attending a lot of work with the Commonwealth Institute, which is a women's business organization, and they gave me the courage to really feel like I could do this. And so serendipitously, I was on a flight to Vermont one year, and I sat next to a very nervous flyer who turned out to be a real estate mogul in New York. And so she was asking me, what do I do? And I was in this transition phase. Should I take a couple of different job offers I had? Should I go into business on my own? So she helped me talk through that. And she said, if you go on your own, I will be your first client. Turns out that her family owned a condo that was stuck in the 70s, and she couldn't renovate it from New York because she was busy with her business. And so it took me about a year. She gave me her business card. I finally called her back and said, I think I'm ready to make this move. Is your offer still on the table? And she said, absolutely. So that was my very first client. And it was just a single condo unit renovation that we found an architect for, got a GC for, and gutted it and renovated. It's 4 years later, and I'm still on her payroll because she refuses to let me go. She just wants me around to help take care of whatever comes up, and that's the type of client service that I can offer now on my own, whereas I wouldn't have been able to do that before with the larger company.
Cool.
Well, Maureen, we're going to take a quick commercial break to hear from one of our sponsors. When we get back, we're going to jump into our Hot or Not segment of the show.
Step into our state-of-the-art innovation lab and create your digital future. Oz uses cutting-edge technology and 22 years of industry knowledge to enhance customer experience through digital innovation in a variety of expertise. Oz is a leading global consulting company whose services and solutions are trusted by startup, midsize, and even Fortune 500 companies. Get to know more about Oz's Salus, a mobile solution bringing us back to max capacity, and their latest solution, Rainmaker, saving insurance companies years of work. To learn more about Oz and their exciting technologies, visit followoz.com. That's FOLLOWOZ.com.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Shrimp Tank. As a reminder, if you want to reach out to all of our guests, Maureen said it best, go over to LinkedIn, connect with her, or over on Clubhouse. So many of our past guests are on both of those platforms, and you could listen to their episode and then connect and do it offline, one-on-one on a chat, because these guests will take a phone call from what I hear from past episodes and past guests. So, Maureen, this part of the episode is called Hot or Not. We're going to ask you a question and dive in why you believe that is hot or not. So we're going to, let's see, we were talking about mentorship. So I know it's hot because you just said it a moment ago, but can you explain what is hot about having a mentor and what is not hot about having a mentor from past experience?
Sure. So I have been a mentee and am a mentor both informally and formally on both sides.
Okay.
And what I find hot about being a mentee is that it's about what you bring to the table. So you're only going to get out of it what you put in, and that teaches you to take ownership over your life and what you want out of any given relationship. And the mentor side, you need to push and challenge those mentees to see it that way. Otherwise, it won't be so hot, right? The other thing I find is that it's important to allow your mentee to grow. And when they get to the point where maybe they've outgrown you, you need to be able to give them, permission to spread their wings and move on and be super proud of the ways that you were able to contribute to their life. And so I've had situations where some mentors of mine have not handled that transition so well. And so I make it a particular effort of mine when I'm mentoring someone else to encourage them to stand on their own as fast as possible. And so I actually have coaching services as well, paid coaching services where I coach people, and that's a very different thing than mentoring them.
Sure.
It's an important distinction, but I love mentorship.
So that's the diversification of your business,
Yes.
relying on the communication skills.
Yes.
And so I assume that's hot to have something to fall back on.
Yes. And it happened because I recognized that I was in a career transition, and I really benefited from having people to talk to about that transition and understand different possibilities that I wasn't aware of. So lack of awareness can be a problem, and introductions to network is really important. So my coaching services include a real strong networking effort as well. as well as talking them through their fears, anxieties, hesitations, and their own resistances to moving forward. And I call it carefrontation. So I may call them out on something as a coach that I might not do if it's a mentee. So it's a different dynamic. It's a much more intimate dynamic as my paid coach or client than the mentor-mentee most times.
Have you ever had a bad experience with a mentor? Like you kind of, after you look back, 10 years later, and like, wait, they were actually telling me some bad things, right?
Yes.
And, there's a lot of sharks down here in South Florida, and you look back, and some people think they got to be slick to make a dollar, I find, and that's not the case. I always lead with, kindness, being trustworthy, and not that slick attitude. And I think sometimes, social media does, build this, idea that you have to be sneaky to get, big in business, unfortunately.
Right. So really interesting story is that the person that I learned this business from was oftentimes what I learned about how I lead projects was because I didn't like the way that he led his projects. And he was not only the fireman, but he was the arsonist, and he was creating all of these problems on a project so that he could come in and save the day. And I recognized the narcissism that was there. I recognized some of those challenges very quickly, and I have a ton of respect for him because I learned so much from him. But I also learned what my core values were and how that differed from him. And he could still be successful as an owner's rep project manager with this New York approach that he was doing. And I needed to be my own person and stand on my feet and say, no, I do things a little differently. So that did cause tremendous pressure when I was trying to transition into an independent project manager and not support him. And that's standing on my own feet is what propelled me forward. And it wasn't received well, and I had to be okay with that.
Yeah.
So how hot for you is time management, and how do you do it?
Oh, that's a love-hate relationship, that word. I have to be better about time management than I am now. And I go through waves where I have to give myself permission and forgiveness for not being so great about time management. But it's critical as a business owner to delegate well and make sure that you're giving your team the ability to do things for you and a timeline to do them so that you can achieve more goals or better goals over the course of time. I myself can go through periods of great creative output, and I need the time pressure to force me into that sometimes. So
Deadlines.
Procrastination is a thing for me. But I've been learning more recently to take that procrastination that's happening as a red flag that says, oh, I think I might need to, there's something about this that I find too challenging to take on or that I'm fearful of for some reason. And who can I lean on? There's a book called Who Not How that I love. And it teaches you to pay attention to those procrastination moments so that you can find somebody to delegate those things so that you can focus on your highest and best use.
Okay, cool.
Parkinson's law. You give someone 100 days to complete a project, they figure it out right at that 100th day, right?
Yeah.
But if you give them 20 days, it's 20 days.
True.
Absolutely. Well, we have Denzel joining us here in the Shrimp Tank today. He goes to FAU. He's a marketing student. He's going to graduate and get into business down here, somewhere in sales and marketing, likely. So, Denzel, you have a question for Maureen?
Yes, sir. So, Marie, you talked about how you had some success with Clubhouse and other social media platforms, and I was wondering if TikTok was hot or not in your industry.
So TikTok is something that I was really resistant to for so long, and I just got into it like maybe 6 months ago because we had a viral video that my partner and I were doing some gardening, and he fell into the inside of the trash can, and it was hysterical. Somebody stole that video and put it on TikTok, and so that's how I got on TikTok. And I've been learning so much. I've been learning so much on TikTok from other people and other aspects of anything and everything. And so there's this guy I follow called Jalapeno who does little house repairs, like paint, how to, patch paint or how to repair a baseboard. And those little things I'm learning from him are fantastic. And there aren't many people out there that are doing this in the construction field. So I wish it would happen more, and maybe that's something I need to explore.
So you can relate this to your business.
Yes.
You find some useful stuff on
Absolutely.
there.
Anything you can throw at me, I'm going to
All
find
I
a way
am
to
is a
apply it.
foil for my daughter to make a fool of me, is how she uses TikTok. That's my experience.
Nice.
I gotta say, I love TikTok. I bought merchandise after someone presents 27 items you need on Amazon, right? And then a lot of the business stuff is good, right? You go on there and you learn a lot of unique things, or like you're saying, like here's how to fix something in your
Psychology
home, or
things,
if he was
yeah.
here to fix something at your home. It's wild the amount of things on TikTok and how quick it is and how that platform has scaled and is the future, because most people just like quick, 10-second, 30-second videos, and a lot of people are getting a lot of value. So I see a lot of growth in the future with TikTok and other platforms. They'll be very similar to kind of adapt and integrate similar type of strategies as TikTok. So question for you. BNI groups, these Vistage groups, all these networking groups, are they hot or not? A lot of people spend so much time networking, spending a lot of money on these groups, and we really don't know. Or, do people get a lot of value from them? So would you say they're hot or not?
Hot, 100%. So my Vistage group is my business family. And we are talking about mentoring. It's a peer-to-peer mentoring group. And so we're constantly bringing to the table our challenges and our successes. And so we celebrate together, which is really important as an entrepreneur, because you tend to always be focused on fixing the things that are wrong, but you forget to look back and recognize how much you've achieved. So the people in our group, we're supportive of that, and we really say, I'm so proud of you for sticking through this COVID and the way that you came through and kept your business together and didn't let a single employee go, or whatever it is. But we also will troubleshoot really deep challenges with each other. And then we also share our network, which is really powerful. The BNI thing, I've gone to a couple of meetings, and I have contacts who really believe in BNI. That one's not for me. At least it hasn't been. But I also, I like to speak publicly at events and do lunch and learns and things like that. And so those things have been really successful.
So I don't think our audience out there really knows what Vistage is likely. I know some people do. I've been interviewed to go into a Vistage, so I got, the download of what it's all about. But kind of, can you explain the difference? Because more people have heard of BNI, but not so much on Vistage. So can you explain kind of what it is and how it differs?
Sure. So BNI is really focused on sharing leads and opportunities with each other and creating business opportunities. Vistage is much more about how do we help you as a business owner be a better business owner together. And so we have guest speakers that teach us about a given subject. Maybe it's personal health and wellness, or maybe it's long-term care for aging parents, or maybe it is marketing or something like that. And so there's an educational component. And then we also have a facilitator of the group each month. It's the same person, and ours is Greg. And so we have a one-on-one 3-hour coaching session with Greg every month, and I can dig into whatever issues I'm having with him deeper. And he's got a wide range of experience, knowledge, and connections to help me solve those problems better. But the power of the Vistage group for me is that we come to the table vulnerable, and we're willing to open up to each other because we've built that trust over meeting month to month and talking about our issues and sharing, family. It's personal and it's business. It's not just business. So Vistage is you pay on a monthly basis and you make a commitment, but these become your lifelong business partners.
And it's mostly business owners, correct?
It is. It's all business owners or
I get the
senior
sense that's a
executives.
huge difference, right?
Yes.
A lot of people are going through the same struggles that you're going through with hiring, firing, and just everything with COVID-19 last year, applying for PPP loans, IDA loans,
We help
loans
each
in
other
general.
through all of that. Yeah.
Travis, our producer of the show, has a quick question for you.
Yes, Maureen. So you solve a lot of problems in a non-traditional way in your industry. So what was the not hottest, part of project management in your industry that you saw?
So it is a lot of herding cats while juggling spinning plates. And it's, it's really like, I like to say I'm the conductor of the orchestra for real estate projects. So I'm constantly, telling tons of people what to do. I'm asking them questions, expecting information back. I have to digest that information. I have to read a lot of things. I have to make sure that A is doing B and B is doing C, D, and E and F, and that happened before Z happens. And so it's a lot to keep in your head at once. And you have to be able to multitask, and that can be challenging sometimes. And you have to be able to be firm often and tell people when they're not meeting your standards, your expectations, and course correcting. And sometimes there's so much at stake on these real estate projects that there's a lot of high pressure, and that can make emotions run very high, especially when you have a very intolerant client or a short-tempered client who doesn't understand things well. So it's really about setting the tone of the group dynamics so that we're all working together to achieve common goals rather than finger pointing when something goes wrong. So that's the not hot stuff. But it actually, for me, is very exciting when we get through that stuff on the other side.
What about WeWorks, right? They were the hottest thing for a very long time. COVID hit, and of course, WeWork was all over the news for different reasons. But hot or not, these co-working spaces in the future.
I have had a hard time wrapping my head around all of it. Each year that goes by, I have a kind of a different opinion on it. I think they exist for a reason, and there's really good parts of what they do and who they serve. But I don't know that business model is sustainable as a profitable business model. And I know a lot of brokers who help them negotiate their leases and or have been on the inside in other ways. There's a guy I know who runs project management for them, and I don't know that he does it anymore, right? Because I think he's not with them anymore. But I don't know on that one. I'm kind of like warm.
Is it hot or not to buy an office and put a pool behind it for your employees? Because I'm in Florida. I'm like, why don't people do this? I moved down here 4 years ago. It'd be cool to be like, I'm having a stressful day. I'm just going to go lay out by the pool for 30 minutes. Right?
Right. Yeah, it is Miami. It is hot, but also rainy. So
sure.
I don't know the expense on that. I mean, I've done build outs for Virgin Voyages, which had a ton of great amenities. We had a shuffleboard table in the center of it, which caused challenges with bringing it through the window and all that stuff. So amenities is employee benefits is really an interesting question. Do we bring in the bean bag chairs? And what I find is that you can nail culture and inspiration in your workplace strategy without bringing in the free snacks. Like there are ways to create a culture that encourages people to want to do the best for the company as possible without having to have those perks. But the perks aren't bad either.
Well, that's a great segue into our next segment of the show. So let me preface that. Hiring is a challenge for any company. If you had to cancel in-person career fairs due to coronavirus restrictions, or you're looking for ways to reach more qualified candidates, it's time to speak to virtual hiring event professionals at Premier Virtual. Their best in-class virtual event platform has powered over 1,500 events. They have the experience and proven results to ensure your next career fair is a success. Visit premiervirtual.com. or call 561-717-9717. Premier Virtual is the future-focused virtual event platform. So, Maureen, tell us about how you recruit people and hire people. What kind of techniques do you use?
So people are so important, and most of my employees have come through people who have connections of mine who have introduced me to people that say this is a good project manager. I've taken on a few people who were let go during COVID, who are really great talents. One of them had his eye focused back on going to a Fortune 500 company, so we did that. But I've also used Indeed, and I really like their voice interview, so that you can ask questions, they have to verbally respond to it, and then you hear that, and you can decide then if you're going to reach out and schedule the interview, because it allows me to hear their communication style. And if I've asked a particular open-ended question, how have they thought through their response? And it shows me critical thinking. So I do like that feature.
So it's nice. It's a pre-interview without having to actually be right there.
Yes.
What other things might you do? Do you ever use any job fairs or any virtual events, particularly in the last year or so?
I haven't really in the last year, just because with COVID, but I certainly do a lot of LinkedIn. And then I have started talking to FIU about doing some of their career fair events for their School of Construction, School of Architecture. And if FAU has any of that, I'd love to participate.
Oh, we'll be happy to talk to you about that,
okay.
Sure. Yeah. How do you build a culture? How did you build your culture at your company?
So I have a small team. We're 5 people, and two of them are in Orlando. One's in Georgia, and then I've had a spattering of maybe 3 or 4 in Miami. So maybe we've flexed up to 8 or 9 people at the most. And so I do weekly team calls, and I want them to bring what they're working on with our clients to the table so that we can talk about it. And I like to knowledge share, and I like to let them know that we're all doing these projects together, and how are we best serving the client, and always keep the client top of mind. And then not less of a priority is how are we making our architects, GCs, and vendor partners feel like they're true partners, and that because those relationship dynamics are so critical to our success. And oftentimes we're working with the client on one project, and we may never work with them again. But we're going to need to work with that GC and that architect on 5 or 10 other projects over the course of the next several years. And so, we need to be successful in life together, not just on one project, and that I think builds the mantra of doing what's best always and being open and communicative and trust building and communication building and sort of role playing that in action is, I think, how I've built that culture.
And have you developed these kinds of connections with like-minded general contractors and
Yes.
architects? Is that like a criteria?
key.
You're not going to do business with them if they're not?
That's correct.
in sync?
I will have that conversation with a partner, a GC, architect, vendor that is not of that mindset, and let them know that that's why we're not going to be able to work together anymore, and that I would encourage them to look into that part of themselves that did not allow them to be in a trusting, open communication environment.
We'll probably get into the specifics of that when we talk about Plead the Fifth.
So you mentioned 5 to 8 people at any given time based on the projects that you have running. So how does it? Can you kind of peel back the onion a little bit further? Are the people working with your organization sometimes part-time? Then they kind of, at some point, they're full-time based on the project, and they're subcontractors in a way, or 1099 versus W-2? Kind of go a little deeper.
Yep. All of my employees are independent contractors, so they're not really true employees, and that allows me to remain flexible. But what it really was more about, because I've offered multiple times to bring them on as full-time employees, is that they actually prefer to stay independent because they each have their own sort of side business that they may be working on. So my project manager in Orlando has her own business, and I have helped mentor and encourage her on growing that business. I have another colleague in Miami, Christian, who is studying for his architecture degree. And so I've been encouraging him to take on architect clients and introducing him to those opportunities. And I want him to be successful on the side for that too, because I really believe in diversifying your income streams and being able to have that platform to take a leap from away from me if you need to. And I'll cycle in more project managers that I want to bring into the business and let them go when they need to.
Have you thought about growing this as a franchise model?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about that.
I'm really glad you asked me that. So that's one of the things that I've been working on. I did the Goldman Sachs 10K SB program. And so I created this company called the Learning Table. And that's really about elevating the owner's rep role and standardizing it. So I'm creating a standardization, kind of qualification process so that you get so here's what we manage: architects who are certified. We manage general contractors who are certified, and they all have to go through continuing education courses. But we are managing them, and we're not qualified. We're not certified. And so our experience and background and knowledge has a wide range across our industry. And so I want to elevate it and standardize it and say, these are our core values. These are the core templates we use. These are how we approach our business. This is what you can expect from us if you're a client. Here's what you don't have to, that you wouldn't expect from us as a client. And so I'm working with FIU, and Miami-Dade College to create a continuing education class that will help bring more people into this industry and let them know that this is a career path that they can enjoy. And then through Clubhouse, I've been meeting a number of other owners rep across the country who are like-minded like me and knowledge sharing. There's one in Tampa, there's one in New York, there's a few other in Denver and whatnot. And so they are going to be some of my first guinea pigs in creating this stamp of approval. It's never been done before. It doesn't exist today. And I believe that is the future of our career path.
Mm-hmm.
So looking back, what's been the hardest thing, when growing your business and hiring people, right? You go from a solo entrepreneur now, at any given time, 5 to 8 people dealing, of course, with all different subcontractors. You're always talking with people, right? So what has been the hardest thing as you scaled your own business?
I would say that I'm the one selling the business often. I'm the business developer, right? So I'm meeting with the client and I'm telling them that they should trust me, that I will do right by them, and that I'm going to take care of their project. And I get a lot of referral business. Most of my business is actually referral. And so they expect me, Maureen. And so I have been the project manager for so long that now I have to be the leader of the doers. And that transition is not easy all the time, especially when my clients are expecting me. So there are choice clients that I stay very involved with. And there are other clients where when I'm selling to them, I'm setting it up that the project manager that will be managing this project is so-and-so, and I will be the executive leader of that, and they can always have me as a resource to go to, but I'm not the full-time doer of the things. And then focusing my time and attention on the financials of the business or the marketing of the business or growing this franchise business model that I've been working on, and really working on the business instead of in the business.
Well, that comes back to mentorship, right? Everyone, that you're mentoring people, but when you get your 3-hour session, picking someone's brain, how powerful that is, that they've been through, that 5 to 8 person, and then they broke through to 30, 40 people, then 100, right? I mean, I know that's when we're interviewing folks from the shrimp tank, it's so common that, just being able to pick someone's mind, when you're wearing all these hats, right? It's so difficult. Would you say a lot of it was that mentor that helped you?
Yeah, I would say, it was definitely trial and error, and allowing myself to make mistakes too, and being okay with the fact that there's no rule book here. I get to make it up. I get to be the creator of this thing, and that freedom of expression in a way is really fun. And so staying excited about it has allowed me to roll with the punches and be okay with not being perfect. And that's a thing, right?
Yeah. So do you believe in a business plan? Like, do you have one that's going 1, 3, 5 years out? Or are you kind of more, 30 days out, roll with the punches, and kind of whatever hits you, you kind of keep,
I'm a blend of both. A blend of both. I definitely believe in, I have a big vision. And so to have that vision, I have to be able to explain it to myself, and I have to explain it to others. And so I have the business plan, I have the business model, the revenue, the challenges, the opportunities, all of that, what the competition is, the alternatives are. And so for certain aspects of my business, I'm very structured in that way. And for my core business, it just comes so natural to me that I'm not as structured.
Okay, we're going to take a quick commercial break to hear from our sponsors. When we jump back, we'll jump to the fifth segment of the show.
Are you ready to make your indelible impression? DeRay & Company is an award-winning, full-service public relations and marketing agency with offices in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and Aspen, Colorado. With practice areas in business, real estate, cannabis, nonprofit, legal, and lifestyle, DeRay & Company is fully equipped to help clients reach their goals with strategies that are on point.
Can you catch it?
Whether it's public relations, social media, digital marketing, content development, or other services, DeRay & Company delivers results for business owners that address their business goals and reach their targeted audience. To learn more about DeRay & Company and our services, visit DeRayandCompany.com. DeRayandCompany.com.
Welcome back to the Shrimp Tank, everybody. So, Maureen, on this segment, it is called Plead the Fifth. You could only say those words once, and then after that, you got to figure a way how to get around the question, of course. So, we were just listening to a commercial about PR, right? So, what has been your biggest PR nightmare? When clients hired you, you're dealing with a lot of heavy stuff. Things fall, things break. You could you were talking earlier about shuffleboard going through doors and someone drops it. You got a PR nightmare on your hands, right? So what's been your biggest PR nightmare?
Sure. I'd say, so one of my largest clients, I found that I wasn't really meshing very well with one particular person in the leadership team. And this was a really important client that I landed, and I think all eyes were on me in my head that my prior company was watching, that I landed this big, huge client, a REIT, a real estate investment trust, and I needed to perform really well on this one. And I just tried my darndest to please this client, and nothing was working. And it came to the point where I was exhausting me mentally, emotionally, physically, and they were also on the same page as that this isn't working. And so I had to say goodbye to that client. And luckily it was mutual, but I felt like a failure. And I felt like that the perception of me in the market was going to be a failure. And I really had to get through that. And I didn't use a PR firm or do anything like that. made sure that I was connecting with the people in the industry that I felt I needed to connect with, to let them know, the places that I am successful at, so that they would continue to refer me business. I didn't want that to be seen as a failure. But what I learned from that is to be very, very, very particular about who I work with, and that it needs to be a mutual fit. And then no more am I going to accept a client that is not a good fit for me, because that means that I can't be my best and serve the other clients that are a good fit well.
I agree. Sometimes clients are just too demanding, and you do everything right. They email you email back within 24 hours. They call you, call them back within 24 hours. But sometimes it's never enough, and sometimes it's just not us, right? It is the client, and you just have to sometimes just say, I'm done, right? You're draining me, on to the next. You can find better clients. There's always another client out there. So I agree, and you got to know your value. This week, I fired a client. Someone called me to do something, and I was like, enough. I was like, you did something, it was, they break that trust factor, right? They do something behind your back, and you kind of know it, and you're like, wait, did you just really do that behind my back? And you're just like, I think we should just go separate ways. So It's okay to fire a client, or just say, hey, let's go different directions.
Well, this failure is like just people talking about it, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of that goes on in this industry, where there's a lot of, I don't want to
Your
call
reputation
it gossiping, but people are talking about. What are some of the things they talk about, complain about?
Well, so the role of the owner's rep project manager can be controversial on the project, because they can actually make the lives of the architects and GCs much harder. And they put a lot of demands on a project. And so it is overcoming those preconceived notions of, oh, here we go, we have an owner's rep. They're going to be ego-driven. They're going to be demanding. They're going to be unreasonable. They're going to reject every change order. So they who refer me business often talk amongst themselves about who are the good owner's reps to work with. And I need them to know that I'm a partner for them as much as I am an advocate for my client. And that's super critical, and is a very fine line. And so when there are partners out there in the industry that can't understand that dynamic, then I just have to know that I'm not going to be able to work with them either, and that's okay.
Okay, I just get confused a little bit when you say owner's rep and they're tenants. You mean like owners of the business, but they're tenants to another, like a landlord.
Yeah, so the term owner's rep, again, it's very confusing. People don't just automatically know what it means. But so for me, I'm an owner's rep, and the owner could be the tenant of the office space, or I could, in fact, represent the landlord of the building. I could also represent a developer client. I could represent a property management team. I could represent a residential owner of a single family home. I could represent a condo association. So whoever is paying the bills of the project is the owner, and I'm representing them.
Have you ever gotten fired by a client?
No.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Not yet, but it may happen one day.
What's the most ridiculous request you've ever received, right? I mean, people do some funny stuff, and you're talking with a lot of money, right? Some of these owners building huge projects, and they will request something silly.
Most often it is to do work without a permit.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a big one. We get that all the time because it's so expensive, and it's so much longer to draw up proper drawings and to run it through the process and to get inspections. And can't we just do this without a permit?
So you want these owners want you to go out and find a contractor who will do that?
Yes.
That sort of thing?
Yes, a lot.
Okay, well, tell us who one of those is. Or would you like to plead the fifth?
I've got to save that one for another client. Or for another...
That's a good answer. She got around it. See that?
Well, maybe. Didn't answer it, really. That's okay. How about these business cards? Who gave you this idea?
So that's my marketing background, and I found
We're showing it.
I
don't know if you see this over here, but they're very little, 1x3.
Yeah, I just wanted to save on printing costs, so they're smaller. No, but I need in marketing, it's important to me that you differentiate yourself, and even if that means something physical. And everybody gets business cards of this size and of this texture, and there's even a great line in a serial killer movie about Bone White or whatever it was, right? But those business cards are different. They call your attention, and you want to look at them and really read it and see it and understand it before you just put it in your pocket and never look at it again, like Jason.
Hey, we'll go in the top drawer. It'll stay there, and it will stick out.
Yeah.
Right? As I go through all the cards, once in a while I do it. Like once a year I'll start going through the cards. This one, of course, it's going to hit my fingertips. So you got better odds.
Yes, and
right?
maybe if I put it in the raffle fishbowl, it'll be more likely to get picked up for prizes.
I used to have one of a different texture, and I always win those because they'd grab that one because it was
There
a
you go.
different.
It's a good trick right there. I like
Yeah.
it. But I do like that you put yourself on it. A lot of business cards, it's just text.
Yes.
Right? And someone could grab this and see who you are.
Right.
You stand out. You have a cap on there, right?
My hard hat.
And it's
Safety
relatable.
vest.
It's relatable, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
at the
important.
end of the day, I think a lot of people skip that, putting a picture on their business card. I'm just not a fan of business cards. I think, we love handing out business cards. It's the easy task to do versus the hard thing would be like, hey, why don't we connect on LinkedIn, and whip out your cell phone
Right.
and then be connected, and then your content is shown. And that's really what you said earlier you're doing on Clubhouse, right? You have to put yourself out there, get yourself up on a stage, connect with them, and then afterwards, it's not about that. It's even the step further, reaching back out, right, over a message.
It is that. And I actually, this is going to sound really odd, but I remember the days of the Rolodex. And
Yep.
so then you would put your business cards in alphabetical order. So I have a binder of business cards. And so I have a stack of them under my computer screen that I haven't gotten around to follow-ups for. And so when things are feeling slow or I need to re-energize or meet some new people, I'll flip through those business cards and see which ones I haven't reached out to. And I always write notes when I meet people on their business cards of where I met them and what the date was and anything interesting we discussed. I'm not methodical about it, but most of the time I do that. And so I do value business cards, and I don't think they're dead completely, but I also can send you my business card via my cell phone like that.
Okay, we're going to put it on the spot. We're going to put it on
You
the spot.
got one?
I got one.
Yeah.
So if Travis gave you a business card about 4 months ago when you met him on Clubhouse, what would you have written?
If Travis did.
Yes.
On Clubhouse, I would say that there's a lot of good banter between you guys. So that would
There
be
you go.
the.
I remember him cutting you off. That's why I'm saying that. I think you were asking a question,
Yes,
and
he
had
did
to step,
cut me off.
and he had to step in.
He
So
totally cut me off.
I
and
did.
I felt like, these shrimp tank guys, they don't want to talk to me. They're not interested in what I
Jerks.
do. They're,
It was all
whatever.
banter. We have to have a little good cop, bad cop.
We didn't know what was going on in Clubhouse, to be fair. Like,
This
we
is
just got
why-
onto the platform. It was like 2 weeks in, and we didn't know how to moderate a Clubhouse room. We were just winging it.
This
So-
is why I don't get on Clubhouse because people on there think they know what they're doing. Now we are tried
It's
and
running
true.
a business.
This
You
is
just
a
run with
this
it.
is a podcast that is legend now. What is the worst condo association you've ever had as a client?
Oh, gosh.
She
Pleading
gulped. She gulped.
Pleading the fifth on that one.
Okay,
Ooh.
well there you go. Okay,
Is
Well,
it in
thank you.
Boca? You can answer that.
Right
Like,
now,
how
I
about-
think
how about this?
There's a lot of- I would say it's probably in
how
Boca.
bad are in the grand scheme of
Yeah.
things. Are they the clients you'd rather not have?
So, and I think it's really a timely question because of what happened in Surfside and
Yep.
that condo collapse. And the reason that happened is because there was an inability to make decisions and to move forward on really expensive project costs. And those project costs escalated from, I think it was 4 or 5 million up to 15 million during the course of time that they refused to make decisions. And there was infighting, and there was backstabbing, and there was sabotage, and there was inability to be cooperative. And so it is very difficult to work with associations. And I will say it is very difficult to work with clients who have boards of directors. And I oftentimes work for nonprofits, and they have board of directors that you need to have all agree. And they're often very resistant and very skeptical, and they want to show their value. And sometimes that means asking questions that shouldn't be asked.
you
Egos,
mean?
very big egos. And so I think the biggest tragedy is that what happened in that condo association is happening at almost every single other condo association. And so I've just recently reached out to a client, a potential prospective client, and said, I know you guys have been kicking the can down the road about all these renovations on your condo. There's some wish list things and there's some really critical things. Do you want to pick up the conversation again? And the very next day I got the response back that said, yes, can you meet us on site? And so I think that if you can have a silver lining in something like that, it's
It's a shame something like that has to happen before people
right.
do that. How many buildings are going to fall down in South Florida, though? Do you
Right.
think that's a
Well, my father is an electrician.
concern?
Has worked for the city of Coral Gables for almost a decade. He's retired now, but and so he talks shop right with building inspectors all the time. And so we were talking about this morning about how many condos are really under structurally, maybe not fully unsound, but they're needing to go through those 40-year inspections. Now, and my firm does help coordinate 40-year inspections and the 10-year certifications, and then help you navigate doing those repairs that may be required from those inspections. And it's really critical as a landlord of a building that you enforce those inspections and that you don't skirt around the cost and time it's going to take and the effort it's going to take. If you hire an owner's rep, we will help you navigate and reduce all the risk associated with it, but you cannot put your head in the sand anymore. And I
Well, that's the problem, I think, is that they do the inspections, then they have to do the repairs. It's like the asbestos,
Yes.
Don't open that up.
Yes.
Who knows what's in there?
We definitely have dealt with asbestos in
Yes.
projects before.
Is that still around?
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah,
Well, I was in New Orleans, though, when that other building collapsed. You remember that on Canal
Yes.
Street? It was the Hard Rock Hotel, I think.
Yeah.
And they had 3 cranes on the roof, but they did arrest a couple of building inspectors for some issues.
Right.
And I just wonder how big a problem this is
I
out
think
there.
that
waiting to
it
happen.
will cause some changes, and that if there is an inspector that walks in a building, they must, if they see something, they must say something, and that culture needs to shift.